Alrighty, let me hit the button there. Hello everyone, Richard Carlton here, creator of FMTrain.tv, where we create awesome FileMaker on-demand videos as well as live stream broadcasts every day at 1 o'clock. Welcome to another awesome day. Today is very exciting. Today's broadcast is not what I said it was going to be. It's much better. It's kind of the topic, but it's not just Mac, it's not just Windows, it's both. And so Calvin's here today. He originally gave me a description like, oh, we're going to have the phone dial from the whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Better than, nothing. And then he came back with all this amazing stuff, which is what Calvin does. And so Calvin is the creator of our calendar kit. He's the babysitter of that. He actually has the new calendar kit 3.0. Before you ask for it, I'll let him give you an update on where he's at with that. Probably a good idea is to get an update in general from Calvin. So, reminder that if you want to help support the broadcast, all of you support as much as you can. If there's lurkers out there and you haven't purchased a training, I highly recommend you purchase a training. While Calvin is getting going here, I'm going to simply remind everyone that this is the FMTraining.tv. This is the company that makes us all work. This is part of RCC, Richard Carl Consulting. We have about 30 FileMaker developers. We do a lot of FileMaker coaching. So when you get into the world of FileMaker, basically people start at the beginning level. They work their way up. And a lot of people, everyone needs help learning FileMaker. It's just a matter of what your budget, what your project allows you to do. Obviously, free is great. But if you want something more than free, like this live training is not free. You're probably not directly paying for it yourself every day. But if you bought our training, you're helping to support this. So, if you're beginning, and you're getting some free stuff, then after that you can get the paid video, the on-demand videos, the paid video courses. And then after that, if you still want more help, you can get coaching, one-on-one coaching for about half off going rate of what developers cost. So that's a good option too. So coaching is a great way to go. We have these bundles right here. Once again, this is me just simply talking about this, but saying that I will put a link to both these. This bundle comes with all our software, including a special version of FM Starting Point, and it comes with a full copy of FileMaker Pro 19. Actually has 18, has 19. You can use what it says. You're basically getting a single annual license, so you get all the training, get everything. That's why it says complete, means everything. And then if you already have FileMaker 19, you don't need a license, then that's the video bundle over here. And I will give you a coupon for these in the messaging here just a bit. So cool. So, but I definitely, when every day I write, we're doing stuff and I got staff. I had paid a senior developer to go into Discord. You guys know Jacob Taylor basically is more or less kind of the semi-senior kind of guy. And he went in there and took care of it. So I had to pay him and then pay the money to Discord. So it's not free, not free at all. So anyway, so that's me making my plug. I won't bug you anyone about money going forward. Cool. So Calvin, are you you want to give people an update on the calendar kit? I don't know if your face is available. You want to show your face, or is it really ugly today? What's the deal with you? Let's see.
Yes, I'm here.
There is Calvin. Let me bring up Calvin here. There's Calvin. Welcome, everyone. Calvin's East Coast. I'm West Coast, United States. I'm California. Calvin is in Pennsylvania, right? Is that where you're at?
Yes.
Cool. All right, give us an update on the calendar kit so we know what's coming up with the drag and drop calendar as part of Starting Point. It's part of Starting Point. It's free, but it's also, if you want to glue it into your own solution, we have this step 1, step 2, step 3 thing. So explain to us, it was like a 12-step process. And so that for those of you who understand the history here, Claris wanted to see our calendar kit. We gave it to them last year. They literally took the calendar kit, hacked the calendar kit, and adapted it to use add-on modules, the stuff that we've been talking about with 19 a little bit. That's not documented. There's no documentation on this, really. And they got it down to like 3 or 4 steps, right? And they actually demoed our calendar kit. They didn't say what it was at the keynote address at DevCon. And we're all like going, hey, that's our product, right? So it's the $50 product. They adapted it. They kind of removed some features out of it that I think we need. And so Calvin, you're trying to update and bring it to that standard, right?
Yeah, so what's really great about it is that it now is using the new JavaScript commands for performing the script. So that makes, without using the open URL, the FileMaker URL protocol. And so that makes it work within FileMaker 19 better because it doesn't accidentally call other versions of FileMaker. And also it will work on WebDirect. So We've done testing for both of those on Mac, Windows, and WebDirect.
So that's ready.
And
No, that's done now. Are we going to ship
yeah,
that one, or are we just going to like hold it back if someone wants that one? Because it's still a 12-step process. So the next step for you,
yeah. So the
is
next thing we want to do is just make it an add-on, so that instead of taking 12 steps and going through all of those slides and making sure all the naming matches, will just be drag and drop. And that's what we're hoping that we'll be able to do in FileMaker with the new FileMaker 19 add-on.
but that could
feature.
take us another month. So if you need the calendar kit 3.0 today, you need to send an email to support. Calvin, you need to get a link to me so I can give to them so we can do that, right? Or we can just swap it in. Probably ought to swap in the 3.0 for now instead of the 2.0, because that's still what we're shipping with the bundle. And then when you get the add-on, we'll call it 3.1 or something, whatever. So cool. So let me, I'm going to minimize you for the moment. So we got that. So I'm going to be today's broadcast. So Calvin, what level of difficulty is today's broadcast? How would we say what today? I'm not showing your screen yet. I'm showing the level of difficulty slide right now.
Oh, I'd say beginner to early intermediate.
So in between the beginning, intermediate in here, right? So that's
Yeah.
today should be good. Some of you haven't seen this before. I'm pretty sure some of it I haven't seen. Calvin is still connecting to Skype to help with some customers. I actually asked him, is Skype still a thing? And so it's not so much that, there's always going to be technology. Like, for example, Facebook was not the first 2 or 3 or 4 social networks, even big ones. There was MySpace and some other ones in there, and then Facebook came along and did it better. But the idea is that Skype is one of the first audio social things, and at this point, because it's been displaced by other technology. I think between because you can use Skype to actually dial a real phone, so we're going to play with that today. With Slack, you don't really call a real phone, at least. Maybe you could do it something with an API hook, but the default product won't do that. Discord doesn't call real phones because 20-year-old gamers don't probably mostly have phones that that they really answer. My son, for example, who's 22, got out of the Army, he's going to college. If you call him on your cell phone, hell will freeze over before he gets back to you. If you text him on his cell phone, hell will freeze over. It'll be 6-12 months. He'll go, "Oh, sorry, Dad, I didn't know you were looking for me." If you twitch him, if you hit him on Discord, it's about anywhere from a minute to 5 minutes to maybe an hour delay. It's pretty quick. So just this kind of that's where people are focusing. So Slack is kind of one of my engineers came to me and said, "Hey, are we doing Slack? Are we doing Discord?" And I like Slack, a little more professional, and they're in bed now with Amazon, which is great. And Skype is part of Microsoft, which is fine, except that you have to be, kind of part of that world. So let's dive into this, get this going. Once again, reminder, help support our broadcast by making sure you tell everyone about the coaching. Tell them about coaching. If you have someone who wants to spend a couple bucks on some help, send an email to support RC Consulting. We will connect you. Calvin, are you up to bat? Are you ready? I
am ready. You hear me okay?
Yeah, you're 5x5. The video actually looks pretty good. Zoom in as much as you can.
Awesome.
But I can also, my computer here is not set to Zoom, but you should do that as much as you can on your side. And I'm going to set some sample files out via text messages. I'm going to send the link if you want to get our training or let people know about our training. And then I'm also going to put the sample out there for the Miles video player demo. And then we also have this sample file also getting staged and ready to go too, right? So there you go.
So I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today, which is using OpenURL in FileMaker to use other apps. And the use case is you're working in a CRM and you need to dial someone's phone. And how many times have you looked at a phone number and then you had to, it's not in your phone address book, so you end up typing it in. And if you're making a lot of phone calls, that can be a little tiring. In the use case that I added this to someone's app, they were doing follow-up phone calls all day long to a list of people, and they were typing it in they were looking at whose number is next, and then typing it into their phone and then making that call. And this saved them the time of typing it in every time. And because they had a headset, they didn't even have to pick up their phone. Their phone was just sitting there, which was pretty awesome. So we're going to look at using OpenURL to interact with Apple apps, with FaceTime, and we're going to use it to interact with Google Voice in the Google Voice web app, And then we're
All right.
going to also use
I do have to. Nathan Schneider, who's one of our big advocates here, has to.
Yeah.
He's already cutting jokes, and I do want to share this with you once again. And also, Chip Johnson, Andre, welcome you folks. Great. Michael, John Haggerty, Calvin. John Haggerty says hi to Calvin.
Hey, John.
Yep. Ed Burkle's there from St. Louis, no longer a lurker. And Andre is ICQ Live. Those are, yeah. So Nathan Schneider wants to know that if Calvin is still using Skype, does he have a pager too?
Do I have a page?
Pager, my friend. You know what? Actually, I don't think.
Pager.
Okay, so to be clear, Calvin was born after pagers. So Calvin's on
I
the
remember pagers.
Not a page, not a piece of paper. And a page is someone who works in politics in the Capitol Hill. They move messages around. A pager, it's a little box with a battery that goes beep 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 on your.
Right.
Yes, what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Do you have that?
No, but I've built apps to track the phone numbers for them because they're still used in medical industry a lot because cell phones, they're more reliable than cell phones in some medical facilities.
That could be because the amount of signal you need on them is very low level. All right, cool. Well, Calvin has seen a pager on Wiki once upon in the history section. So yeah, he knows what it is.
Yeah, but Skype, I still use Skype for my international phone calls. So Skype is still works.
Okay, well then you make the case. Keep going. And when people make funny, I'm just going to pass it off.
Okay.
Although David says, one of the Davids, there's many Davids here. David says the Skype business is part of Office 365. Yeah. So, and that's the thing. They took it into Office, and of course Microsoft. I mean, the new Microsoft is much kind of more squared away. They got that new CEO who's not. He actually kind of knows what he's doing. It seems like to some degree, and so. They managed to bring Skype in and then change features or discontinue features and piss a lot of people off. If you want to read the history of Skype, you just cut to the very end of it where it talks about the current implementation and stuff. So I don't know. Office is, Microsoft is going to thread it into their products, and then it won't even be a product called Skype probably. But there'll always be some sort of phone dialing app. So it's not so much about Skype; it's about how you dial apps and what you can do. So that's the takeaway here. This is another API kind of conversation. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great introduction to the idea of APIs and the idea of talking to another app. So for the demo, I'm going to select this FaceTime, and it's going to call this phone number that I have saved here. And it brings up my FaceTime app and says, "Are you sure you want to make this phone call?" And I can make it. And it will place the FaceTime call based on this phone number. And once I say call, it's going to see if there is a iCloud account associated with this phone number. And that's great if your contacts have iPhones, but a lot of contacts don't. And I actually know that this is not an iPhone phone number. If I say this, it'll probably give me an error. And it's actually ringing. I don't know who it's ringing to because this is a landline number.
Yeah, so much for that. Hi, this is Richard Carlton.
Hey, I guess you have this one associated with your iCloud account.
I know, it's pretty amazing. So you called me, and so it's all connected. So that's what I'm just like, okay, yeah, no, go away.
So so we were able to make that FaceTime call right just with a button click from FileMaker, and we can also specify instead of doing a FaceTime with video, we can just do FaceTime audio, and and it brings up the name. I can cancel, and I can do a phone call. So it's in this case it's still using the FaceTime app, but it's not placing a FaceTime call using the voice over IP. It's placing just a normal phone call. So in this case, when I say call, I don't think it will call Richard. It says his name because he's part of the contact here. It's ringing.
Well, we'll see.
Can you hear it ringing, Richard?
No, but I'm in Santa Clara, so if it's ringing one of our main administrative offices, I'm not here. So, hello? Hello?
Hey Dana, this is Calvin. I just called you from FileMaker. Just part of our demo. Thank you for answering the phone. Bye.
Yep, there's headquarters.
So we just called the Fairfield office, and that's a landline phone. So because this number was associated with Richard's iCloud account, it called with FaceTime. It went to his cell phone, but then when I did a phone call, it went to it called the landline because that's the actual phone number. So let's take a look at how this works. I'm going to open up Manage Scripts, and here's all of our call from FileMaker. And let's look at the FaceTime one first. And so here's our command here, line 9, open URL. And the URL we're passing to it is just FaceTime : // And the script parameter is that phone number. The reason we have this filter on is to take out any spaces, any dashes, any parentheses, because those will throw off the open URL command. To look at this, I'm going to change this to with dialog on so we can see what that actually looks like. And let's go back to our demo here and say, which one was that one? That was FaceTime. And so here's what the URL looks like. FaceTime, and because we're specifying FaceTime in the URL, it's going to open that app instead of opening a web page, and it places the phone call. And I'm going to say continue. And that's the same. The structure is the same for FaceTime audio, except that we're specifying FaceTime -audio, and that just is telling the app this is an audio call, not a video call. So we'll see FaceTime here. FaceTime audio here. I'm going to go ahead and turn that dialog off again. Now on the telephone call, it's TEL, and that is picked up by the FaceTime app, and then it places that phone call. But that's only because I have my my iPhone nearby, and it's placing that call through the iPhone. So there has to be a little bit of setup on your, if you don't place calls on your Mac already through your iPhone, it takes a very minimal setup, but it does take some setup. So let's look at that. And I have the directions here on your download file. So right here next to Apple integrations, for the calls to work, you'll want to open FaceTime, go to FaceTime, Preferences, and then check this box so that it calls from your iPhone instead of just the voice over IP, and enable that setting there. Okay, so we just looked at how OpenURL can call, make phone calls through FaceTime and FaceTime calls as well. So we can also send or open up messages to send an SMS. So I'll say this, and I'll click on the start SMS. It brought up my messages, and I can say, hello, Richard. And this, again, is a landline, so it's not, I sent the message. It's going to come back with a fail message, but that's, it still opens up the app and runs. And then we can even pass it a message in it as well. So I can say, hello, Richard, how are you? And say text message. And there it came up. It came up in the Messages app, and I can just select return. So if we have something we want to send, it's not great for mass emailing, mass text messages, because we're having to send it through there. But if you're quickly wanting to send a message to someone from your FileMaker app, it's a great way to trigger that without having to, okay, is messages open? Now, where's the contact? Now let's type them a message. It takes you right there. And we can go ahead and look at how those two are set up. So here we're just specifying SMS, and the operating system knows that that is associated with messages. And here we are passing it two script parameters in a list, and we're including a body option, a body parameter. So let's go ahead and look at what this looks like when I say, I'm going to turn the dialog on so we can see it, and say, hello, Richard, and say text message. So here we see SMS, and then there's our phone number, and then there's the body of the message, hello, Richard. And when messages gets this, it knows this is who it's to, and to put this the body as the message. I'm going to cancel, continue, and so that's how that one works. Now, in all of these Apple ones, we don't necessarily have to have that one in front of there. It will still work and take us to those different apps. But in the next one we're going to look at with Google, it does need the one. And
okay, so hang on. So you got to take a breath so I can ask questions. So Jesse Christian says it is. It doesn't sound like he's asking the question. It sounds like he's making a statement. It is complicated to adjust the URL handler on a Mac OS. The RCC, the RC default app, I think won't work anymore, or will work. I don't know. He slaughtered the text message here. And then Liao says you can also use an email if enabled to make a FaceTime call. So filtering only the number won't work for using email. No. So yeah. So there's just a couple questions. So yeah. So first off is that I'm not sure. So I haven't tried the RC. It's called the RC, and this is meant for Wolfpaw 66. But the team there, I think it was Art, one of our coaches, they were playing with this thing called RC Default App. I think Christian said it won't work. I think he meant to say it won't work anymore. It won't work anymore. Basically, it was a tool, probably a 32-bit tool. Because remember, with the new operating system for Mac 1015, it's 64. Not only is the operating system 64-bit, but they removed support for 32-bit. With Windows, you either had one or the other. With Mac, they grandfathered 32-bit people in, and then they just kind of cut them off the knees, which pissed off a lot of people. We have a lot of legacy applications that we use. I think Christian is talking about that. Basically, it's the idea of managing or testing or setting a default app for your URL protocol, right? And the URL, we want to talk about that. Calvin, you're the perfect guy to talk about it because it's fragile generally, and it's why the Calendar Kit 3.0. Explain why Calendar Kit is a pain in the ass and why 3.0 is so much better, and that will explain this whole URL sensitivity.
Yeah. So we're using these URLs, and the operating system knows what to do with that particular URL.
Well, okay. We hope.
Yeah, we hope. You're right, and that brings up, and there's kind of a history behind this app. This isn't the first demo I've built of this. My original demo is over here, and I was checking it out earlier, and this was. I called it Skype out. So it was supposed to integrate with Skype, but you'll see when this was built, 2007. That's when the test data is from. So this was May 2007. I think the iPhone was released July 2007, or the next month or 2 months later. And so it had all of these URLs, and they all worked on Mac back in the day. This call to would open up Skype, and now that call to isn't associated with anything, so it just doesn't work anymore. And in the Calendar Kit, previous versions of it, we were using a URL to call FileMaker and tell it what scripts to run to update the calendar. But if you had two versions of FileMaker running, then it would get confused. Which version am I supposed to be looking at? If FileMaker 17, FileMaker 18, FileMaker 19? And so that was a little difficult. And then for for FileMaker, the URL protocol won't work at all in WebDirect. So that was you could have a read-only calendar there, but it was most people want to interact with the calendar when they see it. It's not just a read-only action. So there used to be ways you could control, and so the URL, you could point the FileMaker URL protocol to one app, maybe FileMaker 18 or FileMaker 17, and so it would always do the same one, and that's what that RC configuration thing was. And it's not supported anymore, and it never really it was kind of a hack back when it still worked.
Yeah. So basically, this all goes from. I mean, did you mention Sandbox? I'm actually answering questions over here and talking to people. So
I didn't mention Sandbox.
So the reason there's no other way of talking back and forth to apps generally is because, and that's why these APIs are so important. Doing API calls back and forth is that applications. There's a lot of malicious people out there writing apps that get into you and try to hack your stuff. So the operating system sandboxes your app. So FileMaker sandbox from other apps. If you have Adobe Photoshop on your computer, for example, FileMaker cannot directly talk to Adobe Photoshop generally, and so you get into sandboxing where the apps cannot read each other's documents and can't mess with each other. They're protected, so if you install a malicious application, it's basically limited to its little play area. It can't screw with other stuff. URL protocol is a very rudimentary thing that was set up really 10 years ago to help apps communicate back and forth between each other. Actually, Calvin obviously was playing it in 2007. So the problem is the operating systems can get confused. It's fragile. That's why 19 is such a big deal, because you can bypass that URL protocol specifically. Now, in this case, especially if he's on the phone, the bypass. That's a good question. Does that bypass work on Go? I guess it would, right? I mean, does the JavaScript?
I didn't test this on Go, but I know the Apple ones, these Apple buttons work on Go. I don't know about anything else. I didn't test those.
Well, I'm talking, I'm just talking about that bypass, right? The JavaScript bypass, right? So.
Oh, yeah, that works on Go.
Yeah, good. So that's the benefit to 19. It's the web viewer. The web viewer stuff is less fragile. So once again, we're back to sandboxing. We keep running into certain concepts here in the training, right? They are challenges that we run into. One is that APIs are a standard way of exchanging data. We did, everyone here says, I want to do APIs. And then we show you how to do it. And you're like, it's too complicated. And then we say, well, there is Claris Connect. And then you say, it's too expensive. So doing APIs at the end of the day is kind of a technical exercise, right? And so that's kind of, the APIs is a workaround to some of the stuff. Like this is a workaround. So, but these are common issues that we're running into. Fragility, and Claris is trying to address that issue, which is great. So, questions real quick. Nathan Schneider says, I'm still using default app. It still runs. Are you using 10.15, Nathan Schneider? Question. I don't know. I haven't tried it in a year or two. So
the URL protocol will still work in FileMaker 19. It wasn't depreciated with the FileMaker URL protocol. It will, but it still can get confused. I was working on a calendar that was still using the URL protocol, and I had 19 and 18 open at the same time, and it was getting confused.
Okay,
so I had to quit 19.
Yeah, exactly. And Nathan Schneider's talking about the default app, the little hack app, right? That's what he's talking about, the RC default app thing. So. And then if you look at like this FMP 12 file, and we go to Command I for info, you can say open with and set the default app. But the URL protocol is not constrained by that. The URL protocol doesn't really respect that. Well, it's supposed to respect the last app that was installed that makes that request during the installation, right? So.
Yeah. So in my right now I'm running Catalina, but when I was running Mojave, I had to install FileMaker Pro 16 to test something for someone, and that threw everything off because it was the last thing I had installed. It wasn't the latest version.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. See, you see what I'm saying? So if you go back, it's whatever you last installed, not the latest release, right? That's why it's so damn fragile. So the only way to really guarantee it's going to work with your users is make sure they uninstall all the other FileMakers, or in the case of something else that's dialing the phone, all the other URL apps, the recipients of that they might hear, right? That's the idea. You have to remove those. So David says I used it's called www.waboxapp.com API to send message to WhatsApp, and they charge some. WhatsApp is a really interesting in some places. You use WhatsApp? Because I think WhatsApp is like the default standard, and I hear a lot of people talk about it, but I don't use it because I don't need it. But
yeah, WhatsApp is huge in places like India, and that's the one. I set it up for someone in India to use an open URL protocol to do WhatsApp. So that's another thing that we can trigger with these open URL commands. And really, I hope when you download this, you'll see what it can do. These things can do with FileMaker, Google, and Skype, and maybe you'll be inspired to look at some other platforms that you might be able to use the open URL protocol with,
Calvin,
like WhatsApp.
Yeah, Calvin, why don't we just go and pop this one up real quick, since a lot of people are WhatsApp people. I don't see anything confidential on our Slack, you and me direct. So just pop open the text of our Slack. I just put the link in there for you on that. The bottom. There you go. Click that. And so this is what David's talking about. So it's another API thing. So once again, we're back to the API conversation. So it means that unless you can get the code really simply, or someone else has already built an app for this, a little sample FileMaker file. If we see one, we'll bring it up. That'd probably be a great one. And so the idea would be is that you can, you have to use Postman to wire it up. But this has already been done in FileMaker somewhere. We just have to run around and see where the sample file is, and then if we can find it, we'll bring it up. If one of you see the sample file, post it. We will have another broadcast talk about it. And then whoever built it, I always give them credit for it. Every once in a while, someone will make a solution sample. It's free. It's happened. If Oregon Dita's around, it happened with someone he knew with a sample file we wanted to show, and they took a free sample file, turned it into a commercial file. And the person didn't really want me talking about their commercial product on a free broadcast, which I thought was really strange since it would help sell his product. So anyway, if Oregon Dean's around, that's interesting. And then Wolfpaw66, as Christian says, WhatsApp has its own API. So once again, I don't do WhatsApp here. In other areas, it's kind of like the thing to have to get around whatever telecom problems you have. If WhatsApp has its own API, then what's this WA box app thing? So folks who move around, communicate with, around the work, move around the work. That's what FM Bob's saying. Move around. I guess move around regionally, like from country to country.
Yeah, the WhatsApp in this Waybox app is I'm sure they both have options to use an open URL protocol to start a conversation or do something like this. These by no means are these the three: Apple, Google, Skype. These aren't the only three things that does this. This is just a kind of an introduction to what you can do with it. And if you want to explore WhatsApp, we'd love to see what you do there.
Absolutely.
And we could even share it here with the community and see what awesome things people are doing. And really that's kind of what this it's to introduce the idea of using open URL to talk to other apps, and then we hope you take it to the next level of seeing what this can do.
Calvin, what else do you want to show us? Do you have other stuff here?
Yeah, so the next thing is that we just looked at all the Apple, we're interacting with Apple apps with the URL protocol. And here we are doing the same thing, but instead of using a URL to call an app, we're using a URL to call a web browser, and it's going to open Google Voice. So here, if I say...
Google Voice is much more normal, right? So
yeah, if I say call, it's going to open up Google Voice and ask me if I want to call. We already called the Fairfield office, so I'm not going to do that again. but but we can place a call and it starts that.
Well,
Usually,
the odds are she won't fire you for calling her twice, right? I mean, she does like
yeah,
you, right? So yeah.
right. So we can do the same thing with the text message, and it will bring up we can type in a text message and say, "How's it going?" and we can and send that out. So it supports the same things as calls and text messages, and then we have the same thing in Skype as well. And in the case of Skype, we are calling the app Skype : and then giving it the phone, passing the phone number,
Hey,
so that brings
so
up the chat.
hey, Calvin, I do have a question. So, what'd you use
Yeah,
for the Google? Is it are you making the Google call through a browser? Listen. I'm actually playing air traffic control over here. So you download.
yeah. So it's calling a URL that opens up the browser, and it will work with right now the demo is with Chrome, but it will work with Safari as well, or whatever your default
Okay, so
browser is.
okay, so let me think about this. So you can call Google. Google makes the call. Can you call a regular number from there? You can do that too, right? Can you call another? Yeah. Can you call another Google person from there? So I got a question for all you WhatsApp people. This is like me, like the kind of the strategic question, right? So this is like I'm trying to understand. Like a lot of times I have engineers come to me, and like Christian will come to me and goes, "It's the most amazing thing," and I'm like, "Why?" Right? Tell me why. Tell me why. Right? Like why, right? Like so WhatsApp has this default nested uh, 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 what's the word I'm looking for, lots of installed base. There is this momentum, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like FileMaker every once in a while does a lot of great things. Every once in a while they do something stupid. Why don't they immediately go out of business? They have a huge installed base. They have organizational momentum with the customers and a platform, right, for 30 years. So why is WhatsApp bigger than Google? Did they come out before Google? Did they do something special? Is Google not googly enough? I'm trying to understand why WhatsApp is, just from a business perspective, because if I ask you the question, I'm trying to learn. So I'm going to return the favor. I teach you folks, Calvin or someone answer the question, why?
I think WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, if I'm not mistaken. And it was just a big messaging app. But I feel like Google is kind of late to the game on everything except search. They had their Google. I don't even remember what the Google social network was called. Google Plus.
Plus, yes.
And they had Google Voice, which is a VoIP, but it's behind. It wasn't introduced till more recently.
Ahmed actually says, when I try to send SMS, it does not send automatically until I click enter. Is his question? When you send the SMS, when you sent the SMS?
So the on all of these things, it's going to verify with you. This isn't an automated way to send a whole bunch of emails. You don't want to use the open URL or a whole bunch of text messages.
No.
You don't want to use this in a loop to send a mass text.
You have to do that with an API. Twilio is a common one here in the U.S. There's a lot. Obviously, WhatsApp. Now I'm going to have to go play with this because if China hates it, then it can't be all bad. David's talking about it. David Learning says, can you dial an Android phone in Windows? That's what David Learning wants to know. Can you dial an Android phone in Windows?
So it would depend on if that operating system handled that URL. So if they have something in the operating system that recognizes this TEL URL, then it may be able to. I don't have a Windows phone set up with a Windows computer to test it, but and if you do download this, and you want to test it, just remove this get system platform equals -2, because that's checking to make sure that it's a Mac computer before it does something that we know is a Mac feature, and you can see that and test it there. You might be able to look up on Microsoft's information to see if there is another URL protocol where you could pass a phone number. I'm sure there is. I've used other VoIP open URL to interact with other VoIP services, but the other ones were kind of obscure services.
Okay. Calvin, we're okay on time as long as you are. There's a
Okay.
pretty lively
Yeah, I'm okay.
conversation going over here. So,
Yeah, so if these features would if you're using FM starting point and any of these look useful, one of the awesome things about it is that the scripts are all referencing script parameters. So you can use this on multiple fields. You wouldn't necessarily have to have one of these scripts for each time you want to place a phone call or by each phone number field. And we define those script parameters in the button, and so we're calling the start SMS, and then we're pointing it to this phone number. So we can copy this button, and we'll notice if we look in our relationship graph, I'm using the same name for my table occurrence as we're using in FM starting point. And my phone 1 field is the same name as well. So I'll copy this popover. Actually, the first thing we'll need to do is copy those scripts. So let me go ahead and copy this folder. I'll open FM starting point. So here's a copy of FM starting point. And I'm going to open the scripts. And we'll just paste this here at the bottom. So here's all my new scripts. We'll remove those from the menu. And so now I have all of those scripts from that sample file. Let's go over to contacts and copy this layout object. And because the script parameter is referencing that field, I can just paste it in here next to the phone 1. We'll make those, we'll just align these real quick. So now you'll see this phone number here is 3216. If I open this, I have all my options. I'm going to say phone call. And you'll see here's the phone number that corresponds, 456-786-3216. So matches here. I just copied and pasted that in, and I have all of these calling features for whatever platform we may want to use. So quick way to add that to FM starting point so you can place phone calls from your app.